Hey friends, it's Barbara-Sue at Kowalski Mountain. Welcome back to our channel. Today I am doing some canning. I am making some very spicy salsa. And today I'm going to be using Harvest Guard reusable canning lids to can my salsa. Now, there's only two brands of reusable canning lids that are approved by the USDA. Harvest Guard and Tatler lids are the two lids that are approved for reuse. Now they come with a plastic lid and a reusable gasket. Now this seal here can be used up to 6 to 8 times depending on use. If I pressure can something and I keep it in long-term storage, the longer that this seal is compressed, the less times I can reuse it. Maybe I have a water bath project and I don't keep those lids canned very long. Maybe I use them up within the first 6 months. This seal has been under less compression and is going to hold up better over time. Now I bought my Harvest Guard reusable lids in bulk. So they come in a bag, and also the seals come in a separate bag. Now these lids can be used indefinitely, but the rubber seals are going to need to be replaced over time. And you can buy the seals separately when you need replacement seals. So that makes it an affordable option. Now I've done a whole post on the blog about the differences between reusable lids and one-use canning lids and what's the difference, and I also did a cost comparison between two popular brands so that you could look at what is the long-term investment of using canning lids. Now I'm going to be honest, I use both. I use the metal canning lids, they're convenient, they're easy to use, and I do like using them. But from a sustainability standpoint, having a supply of reusable lids on hand ensures that we always have the canning lids that we need, even if there's shortages of canning supplies. So today I'm going to show you the proper technique of using the Harvest Guard reusable canning lids. So come along. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my lids and the seals, and I'm going to simmer my Harvest Guard lids and their seals for 10 minutes. It's recommended by the manufacturer prior to use. The water has started to simmer a little bit. I did have a lid on it to help that go a little bit faster. So we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. Now on Harvest Guard's website, they do have instructions on how to use the Harvest Guard lids. And it actually says right here in the instructions that the reason to simmer the lids and the seals is to soften the rubber before starting. So those are on the stove, and as soon as they're done, we're going to get started. Now one of the things we need to do before we can is we do want to check the rim of our canning jars. We want to make sure there's no chips or cracks or breaks that might prevent our jars from sealing. Now all I did was rub my finger around the top and I can feel that there's no chips in my jars. Now I have a video all about how to water bath can. So if you're interested in learning how to water bath can, I'll put the video up here so you can get all the steps of how to water bath can. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my rubber seal on my Harvest Guard lid. And I want to put that on the jar, trying to center it up nicely. Now I'm going to use my reusable metal ring, and I'm going to hold down the lid with just one finger. I'm going to turn that until the jar turned. That is it. One of the most important things when using the Harvest Guard reusable canning lids is not to over-tighten them. Over-tightening them will cause them not to seal. Now, I've written an entire post all about canning lids and how they work. And if you'd like to see that, be sure to look in the description box to learn about how canning lids work and the differences between the reusable canning lids and metal one-use canning lids. Now again, I'm going to put my rubber ring on top of my lid. I'm going to carefully center it on top of my jar. And using my metal ring, I'm going to hold down the lid with just one finger. And I'm going to turn the ring until it turns the jar. That is it. Don't over tighten. That is probably the most difficult part, is the temptation to over tighten the band. Now, I have been a little sloppy in the way that I center up the lids in the past, and my jars did seal. However, I didn't like it. Some of them were kind of offset just a little bit off the top of the jar, and while it sealed and stayed sealed, it bothered me. So I tried to make sure they're centered properly on top of the jar. After they finish processing, I'm going to show you the next step that's really important to do when you're using reusable canning lids. So let's let this process and I'll show you what's next. 20 minutes is up. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. And I'm going to lift these up and let them set for 5 more minutes. So the purpose of doing this is to kind of acclimate the jars to the outside air. When you're using reusable canning lids, there's one additional step. Now, previously we put those lids on pretty loose just to allow the canning lids to work properly. Now, one of the things that we don't want to see is that we don't want to see that these lids bow up. If we screw those lids on really tight, the air inside the jar can't get out. And so it will make this top part bow up. Now I'm going to just take this jar and I'm going to cover it just as a precaution, and I'm going to tighten that jar down the rest of the way. Now you can see that that lid is not bowed up, and we're going to put this over to cool. Now we're going to let these cool for 24 hours, and I'm going to come back tomorrow and show you how these sealed. We're going to check the seal rate, make sure every jar is sealed, and I'm going to bring you along to see if it worked. All right, it's been 24 hours since I pulled these jars of salsa out of the water bath canner. They've completely cooled, and now it's time to do the final step, which is to check the seals. So we're just going to take off the rings and we're going to check. So we do that by holding the jar by the lid and just see if it comes off. So far so good. It's okay to give it a tug. You want to do so carefully so not to break. For any failed seals, you don't want to drop the jar. Now that's 100% seal rate. Now I did have one Tatler lid make it into the group. This is the Tatler brand, whereas all the rest are the Harvest Guard brand. They're a very similar product. I've used both. I just happened to buy my Harvest Guard lids when they were on sale in bulk, and that was after the pandemic when things were so hard to find. I went ahead and bought over 150. So they both work. I just happened to pick out that brand. Well, friends, I hope that this has given you something to think about, whether reusable canning lids might be something that's for you to try. Now, both Tatler and Harvest Guard sell their lids in just a 4-lid pack. It has 2 wide mouth, 2 regular mouth. That way you can just try it and see what you think. A box of a dozen's not too expensive to try either, and you might get a better feel for it. Using reusable canning lids is not hard. It does take a little extra TLC, and from a sustainability standpoint, having reusable lids is a really good deal. And when you do the math, they're a lot cheaper in the long run. So check it out, give them a try, see what you think, and maybe you'll be like me and you'll use some of both. Now with the Harvest Guard lids, I don't write on my lids. Now I have a labeler. It makes labeling them very easy, but you can use masking tape, you can label the shelf, you know, whatever it is that makes it easiest for you to label. I personally have to label them because eventually I will forget what's in the jar. And there it is. Now these labels peel off really easy at the end. You could put it on the lid if you wanted to instead. I'm going to label the jar. Well, friends, we appreciate you watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that button and help our channel grow. We're almost to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.